words. I would have had some words. I'm not going to say them now, but...
It's okay. We're live now, so you better...
Behave. All right. Turning it down. Thinking about Legally Blonde just charges me up where I'm like, I can conquer any challenge. I'm just like fired up now.
Alrighty. So we'll do 3, 2, 1 countdown, Candace, and then we'll do Juliana and Jessica, and then I will introduce you.
Okay.
Sweet.
Ooh.
Here we go. In 3, 2, 1. And welcome to episode 353 of Cinematary. I'm your host, Zach Dennis, and I'm here with
Julianna Ramsey.
Jessica Carr.
Kandis Sisson.
And joining us today is Kandis Sisson. I was going to introduce you. You're good. Kandis is the person who actually picked the Patreon. So we're doing the whole like Patreon crossover thing because Kandis picked the movie that we're about to talk about in part 2 of this episode, which is 2001's Legally Blonde. Because Kandis, I would fair to wager, is the expert in all things Legally Blonde. Is that true?
I'm not going to say like the expert, but I've spent some quality time.
How many times have you seen Legally Blonde? Let's just start the conversation here. How many times have you seen, like, start to finish?
Oh, probably like over 100. Like, it's a lot.
My goodness.
Because
right,
like we gotta think like this came out in 2001, so like I have loved it since 2001. That's
I know how time works. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. 20 years, you watch it, maybe 4 times a year? I can see it. The math works out.
that was amazing, Juliana.
Thank you. I'm a genius. It's because Kandis and I are the only blondes.
That's true.
Mine is from a bottle,
it's powering you through this episode.
Oh, perfect.
I have highlights.
Jessica, please. Well, we're going to talk about Legally Blonde in part 2. In part 1, we're going to talk about movies that we saw this week. And head over, though, before we jump into that, head over to cinematary.com. We have the Young Critics Watch Old Movies series poll up right now. We're going to have that up probably till, I don't know, Tuesday or Wednesday of the week after this episode airs. So go there. Tell us what to watch in Young Critics. And, it's always a good time. We got some good picks. We've already got some people kind of, we got some movies setting the pack, setting the bar so far. So check that out, cinematary.com. We also have some new reviews up on the website. But let's go ahead and talk about movies that we saw this week. Julianne, I'm going to start with you because you caught a new release.
I did. I got Woman in the Window. Let me pull it up really fast.
You watched The Woman in the Window?
I saw a woman, and she was looking out of her window, and I was looking out of my window, and we saw each other. And
I saw that
woman was Amy Adams.
The banner just freaked me out when I saw it because I was like, huh.
The poster is a bit creepy. It looks like it might be a horror movie, but it's really not scary. It's definitely a thriller.
It's like a Rear Window thing, right?
It is very much inspired by Rear Window. But essentially the plot of it is Amy Adams plays an agoraphobic woman who lives in this amazing, beautiful house in Brooklyn or somewhere. It's this huge 3-story house. And a new family moves in across the street. She kind of starts to get to know the family. And then she sees the husband kill his wife. Or at least she thinks that's what's going on, across the street. There are a lot of, sort of red herrings and twists and turns in the movie. And this movie has been I think it was supposed to come out a year ago, or maybe even in 2019. It's been kind of in production.
Yeah, I think it was supposed to come out. It might have been a couple years ago.
Yeah, bought early for the book rights and then sold and then pushed onto Netflix at the end.
It's been a minute.
It's been through a couple of weird things. Joe Wright, who is the one who directed it, I haven't seen much of his other stuff, but he's done some really big ones like the Pride and Prejudice movie and Atonement, and that sort of thing. But yeah, I'm gonna say it's just fine. It like none of the characters I think really get super developed out. Amy Adams is a really great actress, and so I think that she definitely takes some of the kind of like script and makes it a lot more interesting than it actually is. But yeah, it was just kind of middle of the road. It was a little bit disappointing for like all of the production that went into it. It's very edited. Like there's a lot of like cutting, and it feels like very like contrived and put together, which is kind of disappointing. Also, I've seen a lot of people talking about the editing of it, but for me personally, one of the weirdest parts of it was the score. Danny Elfman did the score, which he's done this like over 100 different movie scores or some ridiculous amount. But I don't know, like I feel like it just didn't really work for this movie. I feel like he does kind of more traditional big blockbuster movie scores where like he did
most of like Tim Burton's movies.
He did a lot of Tim Burton movies, which is what he's known for. But he's also done, I think he did the score for like Good Will Hunting, and like he's done scores for
what a weird one to pick out as like a score.
Yeah, I just remembered that
Good Will Hunting.
Good Will Hunting. Well, I feel like that's less you think about like what?
I thought Jessica was taking her shirt off. I was like, "What's going
on?"
Really?
Oh my gosh! Now that's
Danny Elfman.
How are we going to explain that?
But anyway, well, it's just you hear Tim Burton score and you just get really excited. I can't blame you. But anyway, so he's just like he does these like kind of big orchestral things, which I feel like just didn't work for the movie because it's so confined to the house that I think something more minimal would make more sense. But I think it just got like really overproduced. So I would definitely recommend it if you just want like some turn your brain off, like I just worked 8 hours at work and I'm gonna come home and kick my feet back and watch Amy Adams make a lot of sad faces and do her thing. But other than that, it's just kind of disappointing because it has been like waiting to come out for ages. So I think maybe there was like a little bit of hype that built up, but then kind of fizzled. So,
or it could always be one of those things where like it was on the shelf for a reason. But I've heard that it's kind of campy. It's kind of fun in that way. It's just like silly.
I don't even know if it's really like silly or campy because I feel like I love a movie for its camp value, but I feel like this one is just kind of like it just tries a little bit too hard and kind of misses the mark, which is like,
Well, this is coming from Joe Wright, who has shown so much restraint in movies like, what is the stupid Winston Churchill one where he like made Gary Oldman look like a toad?
Oh, Darkest Hour.
Yeah. Where there's like the whole movie's just Britain is in trouble, and I'm trying to win an Oscar.
Yeah. Joe Wright did the Black Mirror episode called Nosedive, which is like the Bryce Dallas Howard one. So if you want like a fun, more thrillery, I feel like that one's more campy and fun.
Atonement's a good one. He did Atonement. It's a good movie. I don't know what's happened since then. He did that Pan movie with Hugh Jackman. Does anybody remember Pan?
Nope.
Oh my God, it's bad. Yeah, so Joe Wright, no good.
Too bad. Career over. Just because of what you said, Zach.
The Cinematary podcast is declaring today that Joe Wright's career is over.
It's over.
Done. Do you like Amy Adams?
I do like Amy Adams. I actually watched the very first movie that she was ever in, Drop Dead Gorgeous, the other day, where she plays like basically a blonde bimbo, but it's redhead. And I said, I love that for her. I think that she's done a lot of really cool stuff. So that was partially my draw for the movie. Was I said, I'll watch Amy do whatever. But
yeah,
it's fine.
I've seen people like, I don't know, it's because she's one of those people where she has like these very like strident defenders who are like, Amy Adams is great. She hadn't won an Oscar and she deserves to win an Oscar. And I don't necessarily dislike her. She's good, like The Master. She's really good.
Oh yeah,
she's good. She's like really good for like in like The Muppets. Like I don't know if that's what you want to qualify as, like, but she's really good in that movie.
She's great in that movie, and also she's great
Enchanted.
Enchanted.
She's good in Enchanted.
I like the fact that she can do Enchanted, but also like sharp objects. I like
that one. It's just like she's just walking around with a whiskey bottle, like I have a dark past.
And you know what? I'm eating it right up. I love that shit. So yeah, I don't know. I'm not like one of like the Amy Adams defenders, but when I see that she's in a movie, I'm like, oh, cool, it's Amy Adams. So
see, that could be taken both ways. It could be, oh, it's Amy Adams, or
well, to me, it's more positive.
Amy Adams.
Yeah, but I'm not, and also I don't really care about like Oscars and stuff. So some people are like, we have to get her an Oscar, and I'm like, you don't know her. But like, it's okay. If you're a fan, just be a fan. I don't know.
I think on that note, that's a wonderful, you don't know her, just be a fan.
Just be a fan.
The Woman in the Window, now available on Netflix.
There you go.
All right, well, I'll do my movie. So in honor of the late, great Charles Grodin, who passed away last week, I finally caught up with the only Elaine May movie that I had not seen yet, and that is her first movie, actually. The Heartbreak Kid, which came out in 1972, and it starred Charles Grodin along with Sybil Shepherd, and it was remade mid-2000s or maybe late 2000s with Ben Stiller. But this one, pretty much the premise is you have Leonard, who's played by Charles Grodin, and he gets married to Kelly, or no, Kelly is the other woman. Who's the one he gets married to? Lila. He's married to Lila, played by Jenny Berlin, and they get married and they have the wedding and all that good stuff. And then they leave New York where they had the wedding to drive to Miami for their honeymoon. And on the way, to Miami, there's the little small things that she's doing that start to kind of, I guess, turn Leonard off to a degree toward kind of her personality. There's this really wonderful scene where they're eating lunch or breakfast or something like that. They're eating, I think it's lunch at a diner, and she gets an egg salad sandwich, and she proceeds to just like stuff the thing in her face, and she just has like egg salad all over her face. And he's just like, you got like a little bit on you. And she's like, no, this is just who I am, or something like that. And he's just like, oh, okay. But they finally make it to Miami, and literally the first day they're there, he runs into this tall blonde woman played by Sybil Shepherd named Kelly, who he immediately falls in love with. And on the same time, on the first day, Lila gets a terrible sunburn that just sunburns her whole body, because she's like, no, I don't. I'm just getting a small tan. I don't need any sunscreen. So pretty much she's out for the whole trip, and so he spends the rest of the trip wooing Kelly and trying to convince her father and the rest of her family, who are here in Miami vacationing from their house in Minnesota, to let him marry her, who he just met a few days before. And also, tells them that I just recently got married myself, but I'm going to get out of it. I'm going to marry your daughter. I don't know how familiar you all are with Charles Grodin. He has like this insanely dry sense of humor where everything is very underplayed. And like a lot of the comedy from him comes out of just like the somewhat of like the uncomfortableness of like how he makes a situation, because especially like in this movie, it's one of those movies where it's incredibly uncomfortable and he just kind of keeps like digging into the whole scenario. Like when he breaks up with his first wife, Lila, he does it like in this diner after making a whole kerfuffle about them only having one piece of pecan pie left. And then he like transitions that meal into how he wants to get a divorce with her. And then she like is wanting to leave and go throw up. And he's like, no, like, let's just be in this moment. And like, let's just stay here and be in this moment. And I feel like Elaine May, it's written by Neil Simon, but Elaine May really, and this is kind of the case in a lot of her movies, especially like her comedy movies like Ishtar or Mikey and Nikki, and what am I thinking? In A New Leaf, especially A New Leaf, where she just has she kind of understands like the asshole-ish behavior of men in a way that she is able to present it, not necessarily in a light where you like are sympathetic to the person, but she's able to kind of like zero in on this, like this humor, just the humor of how depraved it is, in a way that I think, I think more like contemporary audiences would see in something like The Office or 30 Rock or, television shows like that, where it's all about like kind of situational awkward humor. But this one, like Elaine May is just able to really zero in on like the depravity of this guy, because by the end of the movie, like you're not rooting for Leonard. You like kind of feel sorry for him, but at the same time, he's just such a monumental asshole throughout the entire thing. And like I really like the great thing about this movie also is that it constantly is like aware of that, and two, this is like a perfect example of like it's sad that something like Annie Hall gets all the credit as like the anti-rom-com, because I feel like The Heartbreak Kid really should be the anti-rom-com for the ages, because it also has like this really interesting companion piece to Elaine May's performing partner, Mike Nichols, and The Graduate, where by the end of the movies, you really kind of have like this graduate moment where this character who's like worked so hard first to get married, then to get rid of his wife, and then to marry this younger, really hot woman, and then gets that he's still dissatisfied. And he like, and I think that Elaine May and Charles Grodin in the performance are able to capture like that dissatisfaction where you constantly feel like, what you have is not enough, and you're wanting to like go after that bigger and better thing. And it's a very subtle scene, but like the way that the movie ends, I think captures that in such a way, and really this is such a wonderful like anti-rom-com. It's again like it's really difficult to find this movie. I once, when Charles Grodin died, a bunch of people were sharing links on Twitter to torrents that they had put on like a Google Drive, and you can find a cut I think on YouTube as well, but it's not really distributed anywhere because something like a drug company owns this movie, and they're not gonna like, I don't know. It's a whole weird situation. This seems like it should be a whole episode on its own where we just dig into like the whole distribution process of The Heartbreak Kid. But I wish more people would seek it out. Like I said, it's on YouTube if you really want to watch it. I feel like people, blow smoke up the ass of The Graduate and Annie Hall and stuff like that. Screw those movies. Watch The Heartbreak Kid and just watch Elaine May movies. Because my controversial statement that I will make is that The Heartbreak Kid and A New Leaf are funnier than Annie Hall or The Graduate. So there, done.
I would second that about A New Leaf because it's super good. I've wanted to rewatch it recently.
It's so funny.
Yeah.
Walter Matthau in that movie is like, he's such a dick, but he's so funny. And Elaine May is so funny in that movie. It's just, it's such a, if you really, out of any of them, if you've never seen A New Leaf, watch it.
Yeah. It's also kind of sweet too. Like it's very like charming and endearing, and yeah, I would start with that, but I'm definitely gonna try to watch the Heartbreak Kid too because it sounds good as well.
It is, and it's very much in like that same mode. I don't know, like I said, like Elaine May's just really good at like zeroing in. It's not as forgiving as like you talking about with A New Leaf, because I think that movie does like it's hard on Walter Matthau's character, but it also kind of opens that, you know, that ending up to be a little bit more endearing than just like screw this guy. And in this one, it's much more. That's why I say like it's much more in line with like The Graduate, where it's just like more. It's not even like melancholic; it's just like depressing. So, but it's also incredibly funny. Like Charles Grodin. If you haven't watched in terms of Charles Grodin movies, I would recommend watch one, because this movie is hilarious, but watch Real Life, the Albert Brooks movie, where we talked about it on the podcast actually, but Charles Grodin plays the father of this family that's being watched by Albert Brooks, is like doing like a proto like reality show, and so they're gonna follow a family for a whole year and video, you know, tape them and like stream it on TV. And instead of like having like a handheld camera, because it's the 60s or whatever, they have like these like giant like space helmet things they put on their heads. I'll pull up a picture later, but it's very entertaining just to watch the people like in the house with the space helmets recording the whole day-to-day thing. But Charles Grodin is wonderful in that as well. So that's another rec for you guys. But yeah, Heartbreak Kid, YouTube. I mean, just do some searches, do some nice Google searches. You can probably find a torrent or something of it, because people have been sharing it online, but it's not available like on a streaming platform. So, all right, well, let's take it home, Jessica.
I was using natural light to like light up my like screen, and now the sun is like going down, and I just look like somebody just sitting in the dark, like. Just talking about movies. It's fine. Anyways, so if you're listening to the podcast, that doesn't matter. But if you're watching it, then you can see what I'm talking about.
They can see it. They can see it in the audio.
Anyways, so my movie, I watched this quite a bit ago, but it is like one of the first. It's like my first watch that has gotten 5 stars, I think, all year. I don't think I've watched anything for the first time and was like, this is a 5-star movie. But it's The Happiness of the Katakuras, and it is directed by Takashi Miike, who I genuinely like love as a director, even though his stuff is like very like weird and gory, and this movie specifically like would fit in the horror comedy musical genre, which is pretty limited in the movies that are in there, but this one was like really good. When I found out that it was a musical, I was like, okay, this could go, you know, one of two ways. It could be really funny and really great, or it could be like really awful, and it ended up being amazing. Like really very weird, but the movie is what I would call a mix between House and The Sound of Music. So it's about
what a pairing.
My interest is piqued.
I know. It's about a family who they go to the countryside and they try to open up an inn, and they are so excited about this. It's like the grandpa, the dad, the 2 children, and then their granddaughter. So it's like 3 different generations that are going to this place, and they want to open up an inn, and they're like, the beginning of the movie, not the very beginning, but when you see the people in the movie, are like, they're so excited, they're pumped, they're like, this is time that we get to spend with our family in this inn. It's going to be great. This is our dream to do this together as a family. And then like things just kind of go downhill from there, where like there's a guest who just commits suicide, like their first guest ever just kills himself like in the room. Like they don't have any guests for a long time, and then the first guest that shows up he just kills himself. And then like for the rest of the movie, they just have terrible luck. Like it is like a curse has been put on this inn, and like every single guest just dies in some tragic way, and the family has to hide the bodies, so they're all just having to like bury these bodies. And there's like a sumo wrestler that dies, and they can't lift him, so they have to make like a pulley system to pull his body up and like throw him over the window. And then he dies while having sex with this underage girl. It's actually really bad. And he like crushes her to death, so her body is just like underneath this man.
Wait, he dies too?
Yeah, they both die. I think he has a heart attack while they're having sex, and then he crushes her.
Oh, okay.
So it's
just clarify.
Yeah, it's pretty. I'm not going to spoil the rest of the movie. Those are my 2 spoilers.
Why would you want to?
But yeah, so like these people just keep dying, and like the family, they're just like, oh shit, this place has to be haunted. Like, why is this happening to us? And they try to like strengthen their family bonds while this is happening, but obviously it's like very hard on everybody. And so like I think a theme in the movie is kind of like about life and about survival, and how you have all of these dreams that you want, and then you have a family and you kind of drag them into your dreams, but at the end of the day it's like, does it really work out? I don't know. And it's all wrapped up in these like musical numbers that they do where they're just like, the funniest one is when they find the first dead body, the door busts open and then just smoke starts coming out and the room is like lit in blue, and then they start doing this dance number where they're swinging their like heads around. And it is probably one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my entire life, because it's like this very tragic, very serious thing paired with something extremely silly, where I don't even know how else to explain it. It's just like the movie is also like almost 2 hours long, but I was like loving every minute of it. I had no idea like what was going to happen next. But like also it all comes together. The other thing that I want to mention about this movie that I thought was weird and also interesting is that it mixes kind of like 2 different film styles. Like there's claymation also in it. And so the beginning opens with a claymation sequence that is like actually very disturbing. And it immediately like jolts you because you're like, what the hell am I watching? Because like I went in not knowing what the movie was about at all. And the poster shows some kind of creature like thing on the front of it. So like that, it opens with that sort of thing. And then it ends also with a claymation sequence. And then there are like spots in it where it's actually very clever, because I was thinking like, if his budget was very limited, instead of doing this like avalanche scene, doing it in claymation makes more sense, because like it looks really good in claymation, but you're saving a lot of money. So like the production value is still good, and you're mixing up the medium, and it is still engaging for the audience. So I thought that was really smart. And that is like something that I find extremely interesting about Takashi Miike, because like this is a man who has made like over 100 films, and he's like constantly popping out movies, and obviously, not all of them are bangers, but a lot of them are bangers. And so for a person who is like consistently putting movies out, his stuff always is like a very original, very fun to watch. And also like, it's very obviously he cares about what he's doing. So if you haven't seen a Takashi Miike film, maybe start with Audition. But if you are a fan, I think that this one would be really good. It's on Amazon Prime for free. So,
I mean, you kind of sold it.
Yeah.
Some of it I didn't really feel feel sold on. Like, some of it worked.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of horror elements in it, but it's all very like I kind of worried from the beginning sequence that I was gonna get scared with the movie because a lot of it is like a little bit freaky looking, but nah, it wasn't really that scary. It was mostly funny and also just a good time, just a really good time.
That's all you can ask for.
That's right.
Do you want to tear into High Life real quick, or you good?
Yeah, so another movie that I watched.
It doesn't have to be long.
Yeah, so another movie that I watched was High Life, and this is a movie. It's directed by Claire Denis. This is a movie that I knew that lots of people were watching it whenever it like first came out, and I kind of thought, hey, maybe I should watch it too. But then like reviews started coming out about it being like kind of problematic, and then also there were rumors that like there's rape in it and lots of like stirrings of that sort. And I never mentally prepared myself to actually watch it. And when it was in theaters, I kind of talked myself out of it over and over again because it's like one of those situations where you're like, do I want to walk into something that's going to upset me? Maybe not. And so I kind of never did it. But I worked up the courage recently to be like, well, let's give this a shot. I'm in my home. So like if it gets too bad, I can just turn it off. Not a big deal. And like it got really bad, like pretty much halfway through the movie. But like Robert Pattinson is in space. It's a bunch of prisoners who get sent up into space as an experiment, and they're trying to see if children can be conceived in space. And the timeline is going back and forth between the future where he has a baby and it's just him and his daughter, and then whenever the experiment started and them trying to see if this is possible. And Juliette Binoche is some sort of like freaky scientist criminal, which I was like, why? Okay, first of all, if you're going to have an experiment with prisoners in space, why would you make the person overseeing the experiments a criminal? Why would you send the criminal like in space? Like it didn't make any sense. If you want your experiment to succeed,
I think that it's because they're like orbiting this black hole. I think it's sort of the idea that like someone who isn't forced to be on this spaceship where eventually they're going to get sucked into a black hole and like quantum fold into themselves. I think that nobody would be like, yeah, I'll do that. So I think it's sort of like, okay, we only have like the choice of prisoners. This prisoner was a scientist, we can use her. And that's part of the reason why she's so absolutely insane in that movie. But yeah, it is a little bit like puzzling where you're like, how did they think that this was going to go well?
Yeah, like she murdered her children and her husband, and then they're like, this is the lady who's going to help us. This is the lady who's going to help us like make babies in space. Like, okay, that's not a good idea. But there were just like parts of it where I was like, she's too on the nose, like freaky, where it made it like very corny to me. And that there were like all the parts with her doing her freaky stuff, like took me out of it. And I was just like, I don't know about this. But also, and I said this in my Letterboxd review, like they keep telling Mia Goth that she has like a big booty. They're like big booty mama to Mia Goth. Have y'all seen?
Hold on. Here we go.
Picture, yeah, there we go.
Y'all, come on.
Not a big booty.
I mean, it's a booty, but it's not a big booty.
And you know what? You know, I'm not body shaming anybody. You got a big booty, you got a little booty. That's great. You're beautiful. But like, that's not a big booty. Like, let's objectively not a big booty. Like I don't know. And the fact that somebody wrote that down in a script and they were like, there's a bunch of crazy stuff happening.
Booty mama.
They were like, there's a bunch of crazy stuff happening on the spaceship. But you know what? Mia Goth has a big booty, and I'm going to have a character say that to her. That's the most alarming. You have producers, you have people that care about you who are editing your script, that would have been circled. That would have been like red marker circled, like, hey, Claire, what are you doing? What is this? Why'd you write that? That's untrue. Replace it with something that's
true. You're gonna need to change this. That's what I'm
No. Anyway.
Were you hanging on to that one? You had that in the back of your head for a while.
I was trying. So that was gross. The movie's gross. The movie is really gross. There was a part where Mia Goth was just lactating all over herself.
Mia Goth, big booty mama.
Lactating.
Yeah.
And you know what? I'm all for discovering, like, exploring a woman's body and how truly horrifying and disgusting it is to be a woman. I'm all about that. But, like, too much. It was like too much in one movie, and to the point of where I was like, so my take from the film is that it's supposed to be, okay, when we procreate, is it purely biological? Is it just a sperm meeting an egg and then a baby is formed? Like, is that all it really is? Are we just animals that are just, reproducing? Or is it like the relationship that Robert Pattinson has with his daughter, where he truly cares about her and is raising her to be, this, like, I guess, good person, even though they're orbiting a black hole and are probably going to die. But, like, he turns something that is biological into something actually, like, sentimental, because he treats her like a person. This is my daughter. I love her. I care about her. And so I think the movie is, like, juxtapositioning, like, those two stances on, like, reproduction and saying something about that. But I don't really know why. There was something about it that just didn't click for me, and I still have yet to figure out what that is. But
at the very least, we've established that you're pro-lactating.
You got to feed your baby. If you want to lactate, and you can't really control lactating, I guess.
No!
You naturally just start lactating, I think. So, yes, I guess I am pro-lactating then. Like, what are you going to do?
On this podcast, we have ended Joe Wright's career, and we have come out with a strong pro-lactating stance. Cinematary.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll table the lactating talk for another time. We're going to go into the break, though, and then we will be talking about 2001's Legally Blonde after this. All right, you're going to push the pause, Kandis.
Yeah, just pause.
Man, why did you say lactating over and over again?
Because it's a funny word.
No, it's not.
And it's really fun to embarrass Jessica on the podcast.
No, it's not. Also, I'm wearing an off-the-shoulder dress, and I was pulling it down. Why? Why did you? What's wrong?
Well, I look over, and you're just like, what's going on over here?
My dress is literally supposed to be like this, but it's like looks like a curtain around my neck because I can't pull it down. What episode is this? I forget.
353.
Okay, hold on.
It says on the top.
353, part 1.
There you
go. Wow, amazing.
Okay, I need to go turn on a light source because
you're good. Go ahead.
It's dark. It's very dark.
This is why Jessica doesn't do the. This is why Jessica doesn't do the podcast ever.
What?
It's because I.
Yeah, I have my 2 lamps in front of me on my laptop, so it looks very dark and mysterious in my room.
You're very well lit in the front.
Thank you.
Yeah. Kandis has good lighting. I have cats running behind me.
That's great. I wish I had that.
Gigi. Gigi, come say hi to Kandis.
Gigi.
Gigi. Fucking asshole.
Nope. I've got a cat on my desk.
Oh, nice. Yay, it's brighter now.
Yay!
Oh, so
Come
dark.
here. Come here, you say hello.
I was like,
No, you come here, I grab you. I grab you.
my laptop's like overheating.
Say hello.
Have it
Oh,
plugged
you
in.
know, my AC is out right now.
Oh no. Do you have a fan?
Yeah, I've got an overhead fan, so it's not horrible, but I was like turning the fan off in my house so that it wouldn't make a bunch of noise because it's really loud. But Gigi is.
He looks so miserable. Just
whatever. His life's easy. He chased flies all day, ate food, took a shit, and slept for the rest of the day. Like, come on.
Sounds about what I did.
It's a good day.
Aw, that was funny.
Oh, thank you.
Okay.
Actually, just got back from swimming, and so I feel like I'm like a little bit sunburnt, or I'm just hot. It's hot in my
Or
house.
you have no AC. That could also be it.
I think it's a little bit.
yeah.
I'm also wearing a pink shirt, so I feel like I'm just looking very pink at the moment.
Now you can sort of see the color of this, which is light pink.
Yeah, Zach didn't get the memo. Everyone else has pink going on. Chop chop, you got a post-it note or something?
I don't think I own anything pink. I'm just up.
Perfect.
Are you gonna do that during the Pride series? Just cover up your camera. Just
I'm not
cover
here.
up your camera.
Hold on.
I'm not here.
Just be like,
Come on, at least put no homo.
oh, you're right. I'm glad we got that on the live streams. It's still recording.
Oh, nice.
I'm gonna talk in my straight guy voice. All right, let's talk about sports with my PVR. And then talk about.
Trying to be Batman, sort of.
But I'm a cheerleader. I like cheerleaders. I like their butts.
Wow.
What? I'm sorry. What was that?
It sure was something.
The way that you said butts was really
like their
butts. That's like the worst way anyone has ever said butts. Ever.
Butts.
No.
That's
oh my god. I'm so entertaining.
That's not good.
You're the life of the party, Zach.
I'm just gonna entertain myself throughout the entire Pride series.
There you go.
That's what I gotta do since I'm not wanted.
You have nothing interesting to say. Sorry, Zach.
Sorry.
Yeah, well, that's probably true. All right, let's talk about Legally Blonde.
Ooh.
Let's talk about the girls.
When am I supposed to unpause this? When am I supposed to unpause this?
You'll never unpause it.
That's fine.
No, I'm gonna count it off in a second. You guys ready?
So I just hit the play button?
Yeah, the green play button.
I always record mine separately, the first part and the second part, because I'm afraid I'll ruin it.
No, I appreciate that. Others don't take those notes.
Ah, well, I always do it in one, and you've never told me it's wrong, Zach. So
wow.
They're not here, so we can just trash talk them. Ash just runs it the entire time.
Oh, I know.
So then there's just the randomness in the middle that I have to go, how long do we just ramble so that I can figure out when it starts up again?
We'll figure it out. They're just keeping you on your toes.
That's it. Thanks, Ash. All right.
All right, let's go.
Damn, okay.
I'm just saying.
Somebody get some lights and they
Is
just become all fucking bossy.
Is anybody watching us? Anybody?
I mean, God's always watching us.
Somebody.
Oh, why? Anyways,
it just reminds me of that line in It's Always Sunny where he goes, "In God, through God, you can do all things. So jot that down." Okay, let's go. In 3, 2, 1. And we're back with part 2 of episode 353 of Cinematary. In this part, we will be doing another Patreon pick for Kandis here. And we're going to be doing 2001's Legally Blonde. Directed by Robert Lactating from a script by Karen McCullough Lutz and Kirsten Smith, and based off of the 2001 novel of the same name by Amanda Brown. The film stars Reese Witherspoon, Luke Wilson, Selma Blair, Victor Garber, Matthew Davis, and Jennifer Coolidge. Elle Woods has it all. She wants nothing more than to be Mrs. Warner Huntington III, but there is one thing stopping him from proposing. She is too blonde. Elle rallies all of her resources and gets into Harvard Law School, determined to win him back. The outline of Legally Blonde originated from Amanda Brown's experiences as a blonde going to Stanford Law School while being obsessed with fashion and beauty, reading Elle magazine, and frequently clashing with the personalities of her peers. In 2000, Brown met producer Mark Platt, who helped her develop her manuscript into a novel. Platt brought in screenwriters McCullough, Lutz, and Smith to adapt the book into a motion picture. The project caught the attention of director Lactating, an Australian newcomer who came to Hollywood on the success of his quirky debut short film, Titsana Bubarini, which I hope I said that correctly, because Bubarini is hilarious. Quote, I had been reading scripts for 2 years, not finding anything I could put my own personal mark on until Legally Blonde came around, the director said. Brown said that when she first arrived at Stanford, she discovered she had made a big mistake. Quote, I was in my first week of law school in 1993, and I saw this flyer for the Women of Stanford Law. So I was like, I'll go there and meet some nice girls, whatever. I went to the meeting, and there were not women. These were really angry people. The woman who was leading it spent 3 years at Stanford trying to change the name semester to ovester. I started laughing, and I realized everyone in the room took it very seriously. So I didn't make any friends there. Producer Mark Platt was intrigued by the character of Elle Woods when an unpublished novel manuscript was delivered to him. Quote, what I loved about this story is that it's hilarious, it's sexy, and at the same time, it's empowering. The world looks at Elle and sees someone who is blonde and beautiful, but nothing more. Elle, on the other hand, doesn't judge herself or anybody else. She thinks the world's great, she's great, everyone's great, and nothing can change that. She's truly an irrepressible modern heroine. Charlize Theron, Gwyneth Paltrow, Alicia Silverstone, Katherine Heigl, Christina Applegate, Mila Jovovich, and Jennifer Love Hewitt were all considered for the lead role, but Lactating said he, quote, knew on page 5 of the script that he wanted Reese to play Elle. Quote, I wanted someone with gravitas and brains. There had to be more behind the face, and Reese just fit the bill. Witherspoon's performance as Tracy Flick in Election put her at risk of being typecast by the studio heads. Quote, they thought I was a shrew, Witherspoon said. She said she was passed over for several other post-election roles. Quote, my manager finally called and said, you've got to go meet with the studio head because he will not approve you. He thinks you really are your character from Election and that you're repellent. And then I was told to dress sexy. Witherspoon went through several rounds of auditions for the part, even meeting with executives in character with a Southern California accent. Quote, I remember a room full of men who were asking me questions about being a co-ed and being in a sorority, even though I had dropped out of college 4 years earlier and I had never been inside a sorority house. The film's costume designer, Sophie Durakoff, became fast friends with Witherspoon on set, bonding over Dolly Parton. Quote, it was that simple. We just liked each other and geeked out on Dolly. The dominant color palette for Elle's outfits in the film is pink. She said, quote, "The backstory is Reese and I and maybe the production designers went to visit some sororities in downtown Los Angeles. We knew that she needed a signature color, and we were like, do we really want it to be pink? It's so on the nose. It's so feminine. Could we do lavender? Could we do light blue? Is there another color that we could do? When we met all the sorority girls, it had to be pink." Nearly 20 years later, the film continues to inspire generations of filmgoers, many of them women who went on to become prospective law students. Quote, "At least once a week, I have a woman come up to me and say, I went to law school because of Legally Blonde," Witherspoon said. "It's incredible. You can be unapologetically feminine, but also smart and driven." In 2001, the Washington Post said, "Really nothing more than clueless redux, but without the edgy knowing wit." 2001, the New York Times said, "Doesn't offer enough occasions for real spontaneous laughter to justify the cost of a full-price ticket." And Roger Ebert in 2001 said, "Witherspoon effortlessly animated this material with sunshine and quick wit." So, Washington Post and New York Times did not like this movie.
Well, they're nerds.
That's true. They are nerds. Let's go ahead and dig into Legally Blonde. And since you picked it, Candace, tell us a little bit about what you like about Legally Blonde.
See what I like about Legally Blonde.
And we only have like 40 minutes, so let's keep it brief.
I have to really think then. I think that like you have to love Elle. Like there's just something about her. I don't know that I agree with the statement that like she thinks that she's like sunshine or perfect. Like, you know, the first part of the movie like really like breaks her. She's driven for something that's, you know, not herself, and then to watch her like come into her own throughout the court scene. But like you just can't have a bad day and watch Legally Blonde. I can't remember who said something about, you know, not enough laughs, but it is hysterical. And I think if you've ever been in like any kind of higher education setting too, like these are the real people that you run into. I didn't go to law school, but I have a master's degree in English, but like these are the people that you run into in your program. Like they want to talk about how they dewormed orphans or how they're so smart, and it's just like you really, it's real in the best ways and the worst ways. But yeah, Elle is what you're there for.
Mm-hmm. Jessica, I know you were gonna like punch through a brick wall after watching Legally Blonde.
Yeah, that's what's so, I don't know. It's interesting because I'm obviously like Asian and short, and like I'm not blonde in any way, except for I have highlights now, so I'm sort of blonde a little bit. But like even
legally kind of blonde.
Yeah, and like growing up, I didn't really like gravitate towards this movie at all. And honestly, like it to me was sort of like Mean Girls, where there were like lots of friends that I had who would like quote it all the time and like always talk about it and how amazing it was. And I was kind of like, yeah, I don't really know if this is like fully my cup of tea. And I would like see it on cable television and like watch snippets of it here and there, but wouldn't ever like fully commit to watching the movie because I was like, how much can I really relate to this? And then this time I watched it all the way through, beginning to end, and I was like so surprised about how empowering it is for all women, like for everybody. Because it's like Candace was saying, like Elle at the beginning of the movie is like a hot mess. Like she's driven by this thing that isn't really who she is, but she's like wanting to please this person who doesn't really care about her. And she's not doing it for herself. She's doing it for this guy. And I think you as the viewer are watching her grow like on screen. Like she's coming into her own and she's starting to get spunkier. And like when she gets to Harvard, she's like very defeated all the time and people are staring at her a lot. And then I think once you get to the party where they tell her it's a costume party, but she shows up in a Playboy bunny like outfit, she's finally like, okay, like this is me. Like, yes, I'm in this costume, but I look hot and none of you guys look as good as I do. And so I think that's kind of the switch in the movie where she's like, all right, like no more funny business. I'm determined. I'm going to do this. And I think that that's a beautiful thing to watch no matter like who it is. I love an underdog story, and this is like a person who is not in her element, and she's like coming into this place where she's not welcome, but she's saying like, I am welcome. Like I will make my own way even if you aren't going to be welcoming to me. And I think that that's something that like anybody can relate to.
Mm-hmm. Julia, what do you make of this movie?
This was definitely a movie that I grew up on as well. That I've always really loved. And I think that my favorite part about it is not necessarily like Elle's personality. Like, I mean, she's like super fun, and I have never been like really, really girly, so I like never really related to that side of things necessarily. But I love how I guess her character like interacts with the other characters in the story and how the story treats other women, like the new fiance of like Huntington the Third or whatever, and how at first, you know, they're enemies and she's very like elitist and off-putting and everything, but like slowly over the movie they start to become friends. And it's bumpy and it's like kind of difficult because they are such obviously different people, but I think in like the end credits it's like they're best friends, and I really enjoyed that. And also that, you know, it is not necessarily her overcoming her like personality in order to like fit into this world to be a successful lawyer, but like at the end of the day, because she knows about perm chemicals and that kind of thing, it's her like difference that makes her like valuable and good at what she does, and like not necessarily like valuable to the other characters, but like it gives her something different, and I think that that's like really nice. And that's part of the reason why I think that the movie is so like lasting over the years, because it's like 20 years old now, and a lot of especially like teen girl movies or like comedies just aged like really poorly. But I think that there's like so much respect for Elle as a character, and really like pretty much everyone in the movie. Like maybe there are a few jokes that have kind of like not aged like amazingly, but like are not like horrible, where it's like that has like helped it stay relevant and stay nice, that like you know these are like good but flawed characters.
Yeah. Well, I think that, you know, watching, because I hadn't sat and watched this in a while. And so watching it yesterday, the thing that I kind of, that stuck out to me at least, was it's a movie that's pretty warm to all the characters. Like even the characters that are mean to her, like you said, like the Selma Blair character, like they end up, you know, befriending one another. And it's solely on the fact that she's, after a while, she's just like, you know, Ella's not a bad person. Like, you know, they like, she kind of just warms up to her. And like, you know, I like both of these movies, but like Mean Girls and Clueless are both movies that they're not hateful movies at all. I mean, they have, you know, Mean Girls has, you know, hateful characters because that's kind of like the conceit of, you know, the story to a degree. But like, I don't think it has like that, like the overwhelming warmth that this one has, because you think of the first scene, not only that, like, you know, the lead up to her going to Harvard Law, but you think of like that first scene that she has where she sees her ex-boyfriend with his new fiance, and then she goes to the nail salon and she meets Jennifer Coolidge's character for the first time, who, there's never a movie where Jennifer Coolidge is like the bomb, and she's fantastic in this. But there's such like a warmth between those two actors, like in that scene where, you know, one, like Elle's having a terrible time, and, you know, there's like this just immediate connection between them where they're immediately friends. And I think that like this movie just has this real caring nature for, everybody involved outside of the asshole ex-boyfriend, which, you know, is rightfully ignored. And so I think just like that aspect of it was kind of what I was thinking about after watching it. Candace, for you, like now that it's, so what is it? It's 20 years old now.
It's 20 years old.
It's 20 years old. For you watching it now, it's kind of interesting to think about like where Reese Witherspoon is. Reese Witherspoon now, I feel like I was thinking about this as well. Like the role she's been playing like super recently, like in Pretty Little Liars, or not Pretty Little Liars, Big Little Lies. It's one of the Lies shows. Big Little Lies and Little Fires Everywhere. That's what I was thinking of. And stuff like that, where she's playing like the very privileged blonde housewife. It's kind of like it feels like she's currently playing roles that are in the Bizarro universe for Elle Woods, where if Elle Woods did not go to like Harvard Law School and just kind of stuck the path that she was going, like this is like where she would end up. 20 years later, like watching Legally Blonde, what kind of sticks out to you about Reese Witherspoon's performance, especially just in terms of where her career is kind of taken her? Because this was definitely, Election was big, but I feel like this is the one that people think about, the most with her.
Yeah. So to me, I think it's like her ability with Elle, that there is like character growth without having to like sacrifice the character. So like it's not just another like teen movie where she's going to get a makeover and she's going to be a different person, and we're never wearing pink again and we're only wearing like stuffy black suits. Like she learns how to like navigate that world without losing herself, and I think that that's what like Reese brings to a performance, is this ability like to kind of like tap into character and be more than just like a blonde with big boobs, as she brings up in their like the first dinner scene. Like there's just like so much to Reese. I love Reese.
What do you Jessica, Juliana, what are your feelings toward Reese Witherspoon? I mean, is this kind of the peak Reese Witherspoon for you all, or do you go somewhere else?
I don't know. I would say like this is what I instantly think of for her. I also watched Election recently for the first time and thought it was really interesting. But I feel like that movie is not really about her character, even though she's one of the main characters, and Legally Blonde is very much about her, or the character of Elle. I think that she's really phenomenal in it, where I feel like there's this kind of thing of like the idea of like the dumb blonde stereotype, where it's like they just don't like realize the way that they come off to other people, and so like that's part of the joke, and like jokes at that person's cost. But I feel like Elle, especially as she's growing throughout the movie and coming into her own, she like sort of plays it up sometimes, because she knows like how she's perceived, and I think that's a way of showing her intelligence. Like in the very first scene, or not the very first scene, but like her first day of class, when she sees Warner for the first time, and he's like, "You got into Harvard Law School?" And she goes, "Whoa, what? Like it's hard?" Like obviously she knows it's hard because she just worked her ass off getting in. But like I think that that's like a nice sort of like character touches, and I think that Reese Witherspoon like plays it up very well, and she understands the character like very deeply.
Yeah, I think of this movie for Reese Witherspoon, but I also think of Cruel Intentions, which is like also kind of weird because she's very young in that movie too, but she's like also she's like this virginal, like naive schoolgirl in Cruel Intentions, but kind of like what Juliana was saying about her character in Legally Blonde, there's like something else under the surface, and Reese Witherspoon plays that really well, where in Cruel Intentions she's like supposed to be this like very naive schoolgirl, but underneath like she's smarter than what she's really giving off. Like there is like intelligence there, and I think that Reese Witherspoon is really good at doing that, whereas she can be like very sweet, but there's like something else under the surface. And I think that like later on in her career, she kind of uses that and turns it into like, I'm a suburban mom who looks like very sweet and very put together, but there is something like sinister boiling underneath the surface. And I think that is really interesting that in her career she was able to kind of like evolve that.
Yeah. Well, and this also, I mean, like, and this is more like a testament to it's a testament to Reese Witherspoon, but also just the screenwriters that I think it's pretty smart with how it handles like deconstructing the you know, as you said, the blonde bimbo stereotype. Like it doesn't. I think it would be really easy to kind of lean on that, not necessarily to like. Well, rather than to comment on it, just kind of use it as a jumping off point for jokes. And it does do that, but it also doesn't like punch down to that. You know, like it's constantly it'll use it as a joke, but the punch is going towards something else, and it's generally everybody else's preconceptions of what they think of her as a person. You know, you think of. I think the first instance of that is when she thinks that Warner's going to propose to her, and they go to the dress shop, and the dress clerk is like, "Oh, I'm going to sell this to her," and she completely turns her on her head and pretty much like kicks her out in a metaphorical sense, like kicks her out the door. But I think that the movie's constantly kind of using that as a jumping off point for a joke, but it never is punching down to that concept. It's always very, it's always constantly respectful of it, going, you can look like Elle Woods and still have the depth of intelligence that she does or anybody else does.
Yeah, no. I would say like when she does that too, like it's usually like she's the one who is in control of that joke. Like, like her admissions video or sitting out beside a group of people playing football and trying to study in a bikini and a fur jacket. Like, it's like she is the one who like kind of controls like how far those jokes go and like causes you to question like, well, why is your first assumption that she's stupid just because she's blonde?
Yeah. No, I like that it's constantly doing that because I think a lot of the times it's not just movies, but like they'll try to comment on something, but it also is kind of backhanded toward the concept itself. And so again, going back to like the point I made earlier, how like carrying this movie is to all the characters. I think it is very like cognizant of that. And it's also cognizant of like the characters who like, could use like, some, you could use some love. Like you think of like the kind of odd character. What's his name? The kind of odd guy who's very smart, who also,
Oz Perkins or whatever is the guy's name.
Yeah. Side note: Oz Perkins, the director of Hansel and Gretel and the Black Coat's Daughter, and is the great grandson of Anthony Perkins. That guy.
Yeah,
I thought that was.
Is that really him?
Yeah.
Swear to God.
It's the same guy. Yeah, which is very funny.
What?
Yeah, I was looking up actors in the middle of the movie, and I was like, oh, and I like looked, and I was like, director of Gretel and Hansel, and I was like, oh, it's that guy.
I'm about to Google this.
Yeah, no,
I was watching one of his movies a couple months ago. I Am the Pretty Thing That Lives in the House, and then I was like scrolling on his page, and I was like, actor in Legally Blonde. I mean, to be fair, it's been a while, and you know what? I'm glad that he has the range. But I always find that really funny.
Hey, it's paying the bills for the indie horror movies, Legally Blonde. Sorry to get on that diet. Like that I was just like I saw that during the movie, and I was like, why is Anthony Perkins' grandson?
Yeah, that's crazy.
The oddball character in this movie. What do you all make of the male characters? I mean, in terms of like you got the boyfriend or the ex-boyfriend, who's pretty cut and dry, but then you also have Luke Wilson, who, it was funny when I was doing research for the notes, they like were trying out all these other actors, and then they were like, well, why don't we just cast Luke Wilson in the clearly Luke Wilson role? And he's fine. I'll be honest though, they could have used some hotter guys. You know, nothing against Luke Wilson, but I don't know.
I feel like he's like the good, like stand-in, non-threatening guy with his fluffy thousands hair. You know, he's like kind of like it's like Jared Padalecki in Gilmore Girls. So you're just like, he's just like a little guy.
He's just the dude.
Me. Yeah,
he could be your friend or your romantic partner. Who knows?
That's most dudes.
Well, I mean, I guess, but there are some dudes where you look at them and you're like, I don't want you to be my friend. Like immediately. like I look at Steven Yeun and I'm like, I don't want you to be my friend. That's like immediately like in the no friend zone.
That's crazy, because I mean that guy made a big mud pie at a party and did not wipe. And so I can't believe that you like.
Why would you make a TV show reference on a movie podcast? Who is even going to get that reference?
Nobody.
I mean, I got it, but
thank you.
It doesn't matter. When are they going to make season 2 of that show?
They're coming out soon. I'm so excited. Kandis, you were going to say something about your long desire for Luke Wilson.
Listen, I'm telling you, 20 years of Legally Blonde, but I feel like if he was like too polished and pretty, he's not relatable like for Elle. Like you need like to think that Luke Wilson has been like slaving away in the Harvard Library for 3 or 4 years, just trying to survive law school. And he needs to be able to see like Elle as maybe someone who shouldn't be there at first too. Like he's got to warm up to her as well. Mm-hmm. If he was like really pretty and polished and his hair was just as shiny as hers, you like lose that experience.
I like when they first meet and he's just like, "Oh, are you okay?"
I feel like now that you say that, Kandis, I like it kind of makes sense where he's like kind of a counterpoint to Huntington the Third or whatever, where he's
hilarious name.
Like, which beat spot on. But he's like the polished one that has like nothing inside, and obviously he doesn't take her seriously. And then immediately Luke Wilson's character, he's like, you're not immediately like, whoa. He's just, he's nice looking, but he's nice enough looking to be the romantic interest in the blockbuster movie. But like immediately, like their first conversation is him giving her advice about like how to succeed in classes and like believing in her in like kind of a passive way of like, well, if you watch out for this, then you'll do fine in these classes. And that makes total sense as like a counterpoint. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe they could have gotten.
There's no spice. There's no spice. Like they don't even kiss. They don't even hug.
They don't need to. Like that's not what the movie is about, though. The movie's about
what's in here. Jessica's over there with Steven Yeun going, I don't even want to be your friend.
Did you just point to your nipple? What were you talking about?
The nipple.
And the nipple.
Uh-huh. Well, Jennifer Coolidge's love interest, it's all about the package.
That's right. That's the spice.
See, there we go. That's the spice. Perfect.
That's the spice. Got it. We got it somewhere.
So the last thing I kind of want to talk about is, I feel like this fits in that realm with, like I mentioned before, Clueless and Mean Girls and Legally Blonde. So for you all, which one of those is your favorite, and kind of why do you think those movies kind of stand out for what they are? Because Clueless came out late 90s, and then Legally Blonde and Mean Girls came out around the same time. So Out of the three of those, which one do you prefer, and why do you think that they kind of have that lasting impact on pop culture?
I feel like this isn't fair because I picked this movie.
I know. I was gonna say we know what Kandis will pick.
Someone else can go first, and I can tell you why. Like for me, this last.
So I am gonna say Clueless because I just watched Clueless a lot more, and Paul Rudd is very, very cute.
I don't want to be his friend.
Paul Rudd looks very good in Clueless, but I watched Clueless all the time, and like I loved the outfits, and it was kind of like the same where the character was like, obviously everyone was like, she's dumb, she doesn't know what she's talking about, she's just a rich girl who like daddy helps all the time, but she like is actually trying to do good consistently, but like it kind of blows up in her face a lot. And I think that I like appreciated that because I felt like it was very honest, where like obviously Legally Blonde is great and like Elle is amazing, but there's almost like this thing of, it's like fairy tale-esque to me, where everything is going great for her, like at the end, where it's like, oh, all of these things are clicking into place and she's defeating all of these people, and it feels very fairy tale-esque to me. Whereas in Clueless, it's like Cher's character is like just a shitty rich girl, and she gets her comeuppance because everything starts blowing up in her face, and she realizes like, oh shit, I'm a selfish person, and that's why like everything is blowing up in my face. And so I think that catharsis of like a rich white girl like figuring out that the world doesn't like revolve around her kind of filled a little spot for me personally, where I was like, yeah, like I'm glad that this movie exists.
Yeah, screw that white girl.
Like, I mean, you know, if we're talking about movies that we like relate to and that we come back to over and over again, it's nice that that movie exists for that like purpose. But that's I mean, obviously I like Legally Blonde, but that is the only reason why I would say that Clueless was like the one that stuck with me more.
For you, Juliana.
For me, I would say, well, I have a confession to make, which is I have never seen Mean Girls before. Because I've seen like a lot of bits of it, and I never been like, tonight is the night, it's Mean Girls night. And so I can't say if I love it or not. And then Clueless, I enjoyed it. It was fine. It didn't really do anything for me, honestly. So I think by default, Legally Blonde wins. It was like a kind of a childhood favorite movie. But if I can be like a special snowflake and introduce my own movie into this, I feel like I've talked about it on the podcast before, or I've just talked about it with a lot of different people, but I love the movie Dick from 1999 with Kristen Dunst and Michelle Williams, where it's like they are two teenage girls who basically accidentally they witness the Watergate break-in and then accidentally like create this domino effect, which gets Richard Nixon impeached. Fantastic concept for a movie, in my opinion. And it's the kind of thing where it is like very much a teen girl movie in the way that the main characters are both incredibly stupid, but it's not about diverting that sort of stereotype. It's about showing that these two teen girls are equally as stupid as all of the people in power. Like Richard Nixon is it's extremely campy, it's extremely silly. And I think I enjoy that a lot. They don't grow, really. They don't really change. But it's also like they are not the target of the joke. It is that all of these politicians and lawyers and big, macho guys, thank you, are just as silly and dumb and petty as these two 15-year-old girls. So I would say that's my pick. But I also love Legally Blonde, so.
I love Mean Girls, so that's, like, obviously it's not my favorite like movie ever, but I do thoroughly enjoy Mean Girls and lots of group chats with references. But to me, like Legally Blonde it just ages really well. Again, like Elle doesn't have to have some like big, makeover change. It's really funny. It's uplifting. It makes you feel like you can go do anything after you watch it. And it's got those same like kind of like one-liners I think that Mean Girls and Clueless have too. But I guess I really like would rather have that kind of like fairy tale ending at the end. And to me it's not so much that like she like it destroys anyone else, but she kind of just like finds her own footing. Maybe that's not too fairy tale. I mean, the worst thing that happens is that like Warner, who nobody likes, graduates with no job offers. But yeah, I think that he doesn't deserve a job offer.
Yeah, he like morphs into Brett Kavanaugh.
That's where he is.
Really bad.
It's waitlist. But I think it's just like it's warm and fuzzy, and that's like what I want in this movie. It gives me everything that I want out of it. So that's why it's like my go-to. And again, like Clueless and Mean Girls are great, but
I'm gonna pull a Julianna in my 2001 movie that I feel like really speaks to me as a person. It's the 2001 Cannes Film Festival selected animated movie Shrek.
There we go.
Yo, I rewatched Shrek recently, and it's a banger. What? Hello, Shrek is like actually really good and sweet.
Uplifting film for women. It fits
Yes.
the theme.
Yes,
There we
exactly.
go. Yeah.
Exactly. Fiona also comes into her own at the end of the film where she's like, I'm an ogre and that is beautiful. This is my body. I can do whatever I want. I can be whoever I want. And that is beautiful. Look at that. Connecting 2001 movies.
Perfect.
Well, you'll hear more about our thoughts on Shrek in a few months.
Really? Wait, what are we doing for what?
Spoilers. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it later when we're not recording on the TV. So.
Okay. Well, all right.
All right. Well, I believe that'll wrap up this episode of Cinematary. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Cinematary, on Twitter and Instagram at handle @Cinematary, and on letterboxd.com/Cinematary, where we post all the movies that we talked about in this episode. Thank you to our patrons like Kandis, patreon.com/Cinematary. Thank you to Cam, Chad Newsom, Christina Daughtry, Corey Willingham, Harry Eskin, Maggie, Ron Hayes, Titus Arthur, Tyler Chandler, and Whitney Rio Ross. Thank you so much for your patronage. Next week, we will be kicking off our Pride Month series. Let me pull up the movies. In the video, I'm hoping in the audio portion I'll have like a nice little edit redo where Jessie pops up and talks about this. She was the one who curated this series. But sorry to the video people, you're gonna have to listen to this guy, this cis straight guy, talk about the LGBT series.
That was a weird accent. It started to get sort of southern at the end,
but not really.
I don't know what it was.
So we're going to be watching But I'm a Cheerleader, The Birdcage, Professor Marston and the Wonder Women, and Tangerine. That's the skinny.
That's a good lineup.
That's a good one.
I'm just here
as an ally.
Uh-huh.
To run the audio?
Yeah, I'm here to edit the audio.
There you go. Perfect.
I'm just here to edit the audio and drink PBR. And I'm all out PBR.
PBR. Uh-huh.
All All right.
Boo. We all just boo at the same time. Put that in your banner. Boo.
All right, hold on. Let's do a banner. Boo.
Boo.
All right.
Perfect.
That'll just run anytime I start talking in the next series, it'll just be like that. I'll be like, all right, gotcha.
Yeah.
Let me just go back to my audio editing. All right.
You're full of voices tonight.
I know. They're coming out of nowhere.
Oh my God. Woo! Yeah, all right, let's go. That's it. We'll see you next week. And until then, see you later.
I cannot believe you ended it with that. Oh my God.